Welcome to Daytime Ottawa here on Rogers TV. My goodness, what another beautiful day in the nation's capital. And as you know, on Fridays, we usually wrap up the show telling you about the Ottawa 67's and the upcoming games. Well, we start the show talking Ottawa 67's because they've made it into the second round. They'll be playing the Peterborough Petes, and it kicks off tonight right here on Rogers TV at 7 p.m. And if you can, make it down to TD Place Arena as well. It is a home game. And here to tell us about the Ottawa 67's in general and, of course, the playoffs so far, I'm joined by color commentator for our Ottawa 67's coverage here on Rogers TV, Colin Zappia. Colin, welcome. Great
Thanks
to have you here.
Yeah, it's fun to be here.
It's a pleasure. I want to talk first, before we get into that first round and sort of a look ahead, let's talk about the season that was, because what a start to the season, first of all. Just walk us through what this season was like.
Yeah, well, we saw a pretty big group of guys come back from last year's team, and there was a coaching change last year, but it was fairly seamless with Dave Cameron coming in.
Right.
And he had his guys working the same way as Andre Tourigny did. Like hard-nosed, fast-paced, good forecheck. And we saw last year a lot of the younger kids coming in that could really play. And I didn't have huge expectations for the team this year, but I thought they were better than what they were given credit for at the start of the year. And they really came out of the gate flying, and those young kids really started to perform.
What was it, 18 wins in a row?
Yeah,
Something like that?
They had a crazy winning streak at one point. And they got great goaltending, and that was kind of the big question mark for the 67's coming into this year. They had two goaltenders with not a lot of Ontario Hockey League experience, but those guys played unbelievable all year. They were the top goaltenders in the league, only gave up 171 goals in the 68 games, so they're flying right now.
I guess that defense is a big part of that as well. I mean, goaltending is that sort of last line of defense, but what does the defense look like all season?
Yeah, they've got, again, a strong group of guys that came back. Jack Mateer leading the way, played for Team Canada at the World Championships, World Junior Championships in Halifax. He's got a ton of experience, and he's kind of mentored some of the younger guys along, like Derek Smythe and Matthew Mayich, and those guys have really come up, and you see the progression from the start of the year to where they are now, and that's Jack Mateer. He's bringing those guys along.
Nice.
I think if you talk to Jack, he didn't have the season he wanted last year.
Okay.
The COVID year really hurt.
Yeah.
It really hurt their progression. And Jack, I don't think, had the best year on and off the ice, but really turned it around last summer, got in the gym a lot more, came to camp ready to go, and he's mentored some of these young guys along.
Big acquisitions at the trade deadline. How have they looked? How have they fit in? The chemistry, you know, not only at the end of the season, but in this first round of the playoffs.
Yeah, so chemistry is a big thing, and you have to be careful at the trade deadline that you're not bringing in guys that are going to disrupt the chemistry that's already there in the room, and moving guys out that may be popular in the dressing room. Yeah. And they didn't have to move anybody out. They traded a lot of draft picks away to get Logan Morrison from Hamilton and Pavel Mintyukov from Saginaw. Logan Morrison's been on a tear ever since he got here. He was the playoff MVP last year. They won the league with Hamilton, and he was, I think he was one of the top scorers or tied for the top at the Memorial Cup last year. So he's got great experience to bring into that dressing room. From a defensive perspective, Pavel Mintyukov is the real deal.
Yeah.
Anaheim draft pick, and he's got all the tools. And you see how well he skates on the ice, how well he sees the ice, how he can move the puck. He's got great vision, and that was a big acquisition for James Boyd at the trade deadline.
Let's look at that first round because, wow, quite a difference in hockey games. I think, you know, after that first game, people thought it was going to be a bit of a cakewalk, 7-0, and then you and I were talking before the show, then you had a 9-0. But in between that, closer games than maybe some people expected?
Yeah, I think Ottawa got off to a great start. They won that first game 7-0, like you said, and it may have got in their heads a little bit that this is going to be a cakewalk.
Right.
And the Generals had some injury problems. They had a couple of youngsters, 16-year-olds playing defense, and they ended up having to put a forward back in defense. Callum Ritchie is their big star. He had a shoulder injury. He wasn't playing at 100%. And I think Ottawa maybe thought, we've got this in the bag after that first game. They opened that game number 1 with 20-0 shots on net in the first period.
Right.
So it was a pretty crazy game, but Oshawa showed that they could battle back, and they played Ottawa tough in game number 2, almost won that game, 1-goal game, and then took game 3 in overtime, and they were trailing in that game as well, came back, won the game in overtime, and then Ottawa really put the boots to them in game number 4. But give credit to Oshawa. They came back in game 5 and they pushed Ottawa hard. They played really hard, good forecheck, and they gave Ottawa trouble. But the 67's, you know, their experience, their depth, both at forward and on defense, really showed, and they were able to pull out that game.
Probably good to have those games, right? I mean, going into the second round, you don't want to necessarily. I mean, I know it's great for the fans. Love to see offense, and you get a 7-0 and 9-0.
Yeah.
But if all those games are like that, maybe you got too much confidence going into the second round. Let's set the table for that. The Peterborough Petes. What sort of team are we looking at here?
Well, they're a tough team. They're a deep team as well. They've got tons of forwards that can put the puck in the net and guys that have experience. And they made some trades as well. They got 2 guys from the Hamilton Bulldogs that have that championship experience. They picked up Brennan Othman from Flint, who was on the World Junior team as well. So they've got some guys that can really put the puck in the net. They're not as deep on the back end, but Michael Simpson was the 3rd ranked goaltender in the Ontario Hockey League in goals against average, right behind Max Donoso, who will start for the 67. So you've got a really good goaltending battle, but you've got 2 teams that can really play. And these 2 teams hate each other. And
Really,
from my position down between the benches, I know that over the last couple of years, they do not like each other. I mean, the coaches got into it earlier on this year, so it's going to be a fiery series.
Take me to between the benches, because this is pretty cool that we're doing that now, right? I know it started a few years ago, you know, where yourself and Dan Mooney aren't beside each other necessarily in the booth anymore. The NHL is doing that. What's it like being there between the benches?
It gives you a different perspective, and it gives you kind of the temperature of the game. You can see what's going on close up. Now, I don't have a great perspective to see how plays develop, but from my coaching experience, I can kind of I have that same kind of angle, so I can put that into my analysis. But we have great replays too, so I can look at those. But it really gives me a sense of the speed, who's really attacking more, you know, if a team's back on their heels. And then, of course, you get the chatter between the benches, and you can hear what's going on. That's always fun.
That must be so much fun.
There's some colorful stuff that goes on.
Hitting the mute button on the mic every now and then, I bet.
Thankfully, the mic doesn't pick up a whole lot outside of me talking, but there's some fun stuff that goes on between the benches.
What's going to be the keys to the game, do you think, for the Ottawa 67's?
Well, they're going to have to dictate the play. They have to dictate the pace of the play. If they can get on the forecheck, this is where their strength really is. They're so fast. They pick up a ton of speed through the neutral zone, and they're not a team that dumps the puck in. So they're a possession team. So once they gain entry into the zone, they maintain possession of the puck, and if they give it up or if they have to dump it in, their forecheck is so strong that they give the other team so many problems, and they create a lot of turnovers. Now, if Peterborough can get on the body and start kind of pushing Ottawa around, because Ottawa's one of the smaller teams in the league.
Yeah.
If Peterborough can start doing that, Ottawa's going to have to adjust and figure out a different style of play.
It's going to be so exciting. Cannot wait for you and Dan calling the game. You guys do such a great job. And, of course, Kurt Studley, the entire crew. I want to remind you again at home, it's at TD Place. So first 2 games at TD Place, if you can make it down, the atmosphere right now is absolutely amazing. So 7 p.m. tonight, 2 p.m. on Sunday as well. You can catch all the action right here on Rogers TV. And, of course, as we move ahead, we'll update you on games 3 and 4.